Hi everyone, I'm meteorologist Ashley Baylor with a check of your latest forecast. Well, the weather's been very quiet across Hampton Roads for the past couple of days, and that's why a lot of our attention has been on Hurricane Irma, a very devastating hurricane for the entire state of Florida. As we were saying for days leading up to this making landfall, and by the way, it's actually made two landfalls, one along the Florida Keys and another one on Marco Island. We were saying it was the sheer size of this storm that was going to affect the entire state here, and that continues to be the case. You can actually see the eye moving north of 75, and as it continues on a northerly track, it'll be just outside of Tampa by the overnight hours. Now, as you can see, with the winds being counterclockwise around the center of this hurricane, we're getting that onshore wind for the east coast of Florida, all the way from Orlando through Fort Pierce down into West Palm Beach. So it's creating a little bit of convergence in the atmosphere and causing quick little tornado spin-ups. So we've actually been watching tornado warnings that have been popping up for the last 24 hours. And according to some of our radar sites, we've actually seen a lot of water spouts popping up as well. So it's been very interesting. But usually with any tornadoes that pop up in a hurricane, they tend to be very quick. They tend to be relatively weak, but can be very destructive as well. So it's nothing to kind of really brush off. Now, with the winds turning onshore through southwestern parts of Florida now, in the wake of this eye, now they're going to be dealing with some devastating storm surge. And storm surge is unfortunately where you can tend to see the most casualties in a hurricane. So right now, Irma's storm surge forecasted to be about 10 to 15 feet high. So as this kind of explains it for you, look how far that water is going to push on shore. When you're talking about storm surge that's right around a foot or potentially higher, it can push well on land. And you got to remember that a lot of the houses down there are not two-story houses as indicated in this picture. A lot of them down there are just one-story houses. So anything that's close to the water, any houses, apartment buildings, condos, whatever it may be completely inundated as all of that water starts to rush on shore. So again, that can be a very devastating situation for them. So right now, Irma, a Category 2 hurricane, it will likely stay over land and weaken to a Category 1 hurricane as it makes its approach to the Tampa Bay area. From there, it'll weaken back to a tropical storm as it moves farther inland towards Georgia. So yes, this storm will continue to weaken, but again, based on sheer size, it's still going to bring a lot of rain and very strong winds to the state of Florida and possibly even into Georgia as well. Now, eventually, Irma will weaken just to an area of low pressure as it enters the Mississippi River Valley, but notice it stays well west of Hampton Roads, so the effects here will be very minimal. As we go into your Monday, expect partly sunny skies here, not seeing much in the way of any rainfall. It looks like we could tap into some showers primarily going into Tuesday afternoon. As you can see, that rain starts to move in from the south. So Tuesday afternoon, just a few showers out there. Shouldn't amount to very much though. Winds will be out of the east at 10 to 20 miles per hour, maybe some higher gusts than that. On and off rain for Tuesday, amounting to about 1/4 of an inch, because again, I don't really anticipate any heavy rainfall necessarily, but if we do get some pockets of heavy rain, maybe upwards of 1/2 inch. Nothing to really write home about. Now, of course, with that wind pushing on shore, during Monday's high tide at 1:30, water levels could crest at about 4.2 feet, indicating nuisance tidal flooding. And once again, water levels will crest at 4.1 feet during high tide Tuesday at 2:30. So if you live in an area that's even prone to nuisance tidal flooding, you kind of know what to expect. Here's a look at Hurricane Jose. Once we officially put Irma in our rearview mirror, our attention will be turning to Jose. That I can guarantee you. Right now, it is a Category 3 hurricane, wind sustained at 120 miles per hour. The track does become a little more interesting over the coming days. Here's the latest track here. It is expected to weaken back to a Category 1 hurricane over the next few days, even all the way into Friday. But look what happens once it's done kind of spinning out in the Atlantic. It'll start to attempt to make a turn towards the East Coast. Here's a look at our spaghetti models, and a few of them pretty consistent with once it gets rid of that little loop-de-loop out there, that it wants to bring it close to the East Coast. I'm not saying it's going to make landfall anywhere along the East Coast, but again, due to the sheer size of that storm, coming close to the East Coast could mean at least some effects for the mid-Atlantic states, or possibly really anywhere, potentially from Florida up through the mid-Atlantic states into southern New England. Just look at our 7-day forecast. So past Tuesday, Wednesday is dry, 85 degrees, isolated showers late Thursday and Friday. Watching next weekend, going to be watching and waiting to see what Hurricane Jose does, but I can tell you that is going to be one of our primary focuses over the next week.